I'm a concierge at a boutique hotel in Vienna. And last month, an American woman stood in our marble lobby at 11:47 p.m. shouting into her phone about needing ice. Not a few cubes. Bucket. She'd already called down twice, and when I brought her the standard European amount, she held it up like evidence in a trial. This is maybe 8 cubes. In America, we get ice that actually fills the bucket. It's a hospitality standard. Benjamin Franklin wrote about it in Poor Richard's Almanac. A guest's drink should be colder than their grievances. I told her Franklin wrote no such thing. She insisted I Google it. The quote doesn't exist. She left a 1-star review anyway, citing historically illiterate staff. My cousin works the ticket counter at a train station in Brussels, and a guy demanded a refund because nobody on the 1422 Amsterdam spoke English in his car. Not the conductor. Not enough passengers. He claimed international trains are required by NATO treaty to maintain English-speaking ratios. My cousin asked which treaty. He said, the transportation one from 1973. Everyone knows this. There's no such treaty. He tried to file a formal complaint with the EU, but the form was in Dutch. I teach art history in Florence, and during a private Uffizi tour, an American couple stopped in front of Botticelli's Birth of Venus, and the husband said, "This is a replica, right? The real one's in New York?" I told him this is the original, painted in 1485. Never moved. He laughed and said, "No way. I saw the real one at the Met last year. They must have swapped them out for insurance purposes. Italy probably can't afford to keep the authentic pieces anymore." His wife nodded. Taking photos of the copy, they left a review warning other Americans not to waste money on European forgeries. My brother manages a small cafe in Porto, and an American man asked for a coffee to go at 9:45 a.m. "We don't do paper cups." He said that's illegal. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires all food establishments to provide portable beverage options. It's for people with mobility issues. I explained the ADA doesn't apply in Portugal. He said all Western democracies adopted it in 1992 as part of the Democratic Standards Agreement. He tried to photograph our violation for his lawyer. The agreement he mentioned doesn't exist. He posted on TripAdvisor that we were discriminating against disabled Americans through our refusal to follow international accessibility law. I work at a museum in Stockholm, and an American woman demanded to know why we don't have water fountains. She said it's a public health violation. Sweden signed the Geneva Convention, which mandates free drinking water in all public buildings. It's Article 7, Section 3. I told her the Geneva Conventions cover warfare, not water fountains. She insisted I was wrong. My uncle's a lawyer. He told me about this exact situation. "You're violating international law right now?" She tried to report us to the Swedish embassy. "In Sweden, we're Swedish." She later complained on Facebook that Stockholm was breaking treaties America fought World War II to protect. My sister runs a small guest house in Krakow, and last summer, an American couple checked in at 8:30 p.m. asking where they could get dinner. I recommended 3 places within walking distance. All were closed. They were furious. The husband said, "This is absurd. The right to commerce is protected under the Magna Carta. Businesses can't just refuse service because they feel like closing." I explained restaurants here close around 8 p.m. on weekdays. He said, "That's economically insane." Adam Smith proved in The Wealth of Nations that markets must remain accessible 14 hours daily for optimal competition. That's not in Adam Smith's book. They ordered pizza from a late-night place and left a review saying, "Polish restaurants don't understand basic capitalism." I'm a pharmacist in Lyon. And an American man came in at 10:15 p.m. furious that we were closed. He pounded on the glass and yelled, "I have a prescription. You have to fill it. It's the Hippocratic Oath." I opened the door and explained we close at 8 p.m. and there's a 24-hour pharmacy 3 blocks away. He said, "No, you're required to serve me. The oath says you can't refuse medical care." I looked it up before my trip. It's literally in the first paragraph. I told him the Hippocratic Oath applies to doctors, not pharmacies, and doesn't mandate business hours. He said I was clearly undertrained and demanded to speak to whoever licensed this. establishment. He filed a formal complaint with the French medical board claiming we'd violated ancient Greek healthcare law. I'm a park ranger in Zurich, and an American tourist was walking through a protected meadow where signs clearly prohibit entry. I approached her and explained the areas off limits to preserve native wildflowers. She said, "I pay taxes. Public land means public access. That's in the Constitution." I told her she doesn't pay Swiss taxes, and Switzerland doesn't have the same constitution as the United States. She said, "All democracies adopted the American Constitution as a framework. It's taught in schools. Public property is public." She tried to cite the International Parks Treaty of 1981 that supposedly guarantees access. It doesn't exist. She later posted that Swiss Rangers don't understand the foundational documents of Western democracy. I work at a government office in Copenhagen, and an American man came in demanding we process his parking ticket dispute in English. We have English-speaking staff, but the official forms are in Danish. He said this violates EU language policy. The European Union requires all government documents to be available in English. It's Regulation 482, passed in 2009. I explained Denmark's official language is Danish, and while we offer translation services, forms aren't automatically in English. He said that's illegal. The EU headquarters is in Brussels, and they speak English there. So all member countries have to provide English documentation. It's a unity requirement. I tried to file a complaint with the EU, claiming we were excluding English speakers from legal processes. I manage a small cinema in Bratislava, and an American couple wanted to see a Slovak film but were upset there were no English subtitles on the 7 p.m. Slovak language screening. They said it's discriminatory. The UN Cultural Rights Treaty requires all films shown in public venues to be accessible to international visitors. We checked before flying here, explained we have English subtitles on the 9 p.m. showing, but the 7 p.m. is for local audiences. The husband said, "That's segregation. You're creating separate screenings based on language, which violates the 1966 International Covenant on Civil Rights." He tried to demand a refund based on unhuman rights violations. The treaty he cited has nothing to do with subtitle availability. They posted that Slovakia doesn't respect international cultural access agreements. I'm a city bus driver in Helsinki, and an American tourist tried to board without a ticket, saying he'd pay the driver. I explained, we're cashless. Tickets must be bought in advance through the app or at kiosks. He said that's illegal. Public transportation has to accept cash. It's a federal requirement under the Transportation Equity Act. I told him Finland doesn't follow American federal law. He said no. This was adopted internationally in 2004. All public transit systems have to accept physical currency to prevent discrimination against people without bank accounts. He called it digital apartheid and tried to report the bus company to the Finnish government. The act he mentioned doesn't exist. He posted online that Helsinki was violating basic transit rights established by international law. I worked the reception desk at a swimming pool in Prague, and an American woman was upset we required swim caps. She said it's a violation of personal freedom. The European Court of Human Rights ruled in 2007 that dress codes in public facilities are unconstitutional. You can't mandate what people wear. I explained swim caps are for hygiene, and the pool is privately managed. She said it doesn't matter. The ruling applies to all European facilities. It's called the Personal Expression Directive, and it's binding in all EU countries. No such ruling or directive exists. She threatened to sue, claiming we were ignoring established case law. She later posted that Prague swimming pools violate EU human rights standards. I bartended at a small pub in Dublin, and an American man ordered a Guinness and was shocked it took 4 minutes. He said, "This is unacceptable." The Better Business Bureau mandates drink service within 90 seconds for bars serving more than 20 people. I explained Guinness requires a proper pour and settle. He said, "That's a scam. Bars use the slow pour myth to justify bad service." It was debunked in a 2015 Harvard study on beverage efficiency. No such study exists. He left an online review warning that Irish bars don't follow international service standards and are lying about poor times to cover laziness. I'm a waiter in Barcelona, and an American couple finished their meal and left a €40 tip on a €60 bill. I ran after them, assuming they'd made a mistake. They said, "No, that's the correct 20% tip. It's how you show good service was appreciated." I explained that in Spain, tips aren't expected like that, and we're paid full wages. The husband said, "That's impossible. The global hospitality industry operates on tipping. It's in the International Labor Standards Agreement from 1994. All restaurants work this way." I told him no such agreement exists and tried to return €30. He refused, insisting I was culturally confused about how restaurants operate. His wife posted online that Spanish servers don't understand their own industry's compensation structure. I manage a small bakery in Munich, and an American woman wanted to customize a Black Forest cake by removing the kirsch and replacing it with vanilla extract. I explained that fundamentally changes the cake. She said, "The customer is always right. That's a legally protected principle under the Commerce Fairness Act. If I'm paying, you have to make it how I want." I told her we can suggest a different cake, but we don't alter traditional recipes. She said this is discrimination. The Better Business Bureau filed a landmark case in 2008, establishing that businesses must accommodate customer preferences. It's called the Modification Rights Ruling. None of this exists. She posted a review claiming German bakeries refuse to follow international customer service law. I work at a restaurant in Athens, and an American family came in at 4:30 p.m. for dinner. We weren't open yet. They knocked on the window and pointed at their watches. I opened the door and explained, "We start serving at 7 p.m., the father said. "That's ridiculous. The UN Food Access Charter states that restaurants must serve meals during all standard daylight hours." "You're in violation." Told him there's no such charter. He said, "Yes, there is. It was passed in 2001 to prevent food deserts in tourist areas. Greece signed it." He tried to photograph our illegal closure and threatened to report us to the Greek Tourism Board. They later posted that Athens restaurants ignore international meal service requirements. I'm a cafe manager in Amsterdam. An American man asked for a coffee with 7 pumps of caramel syrup, oat milk, and extra whipped cream. "We're a traditional Dutch cafe. We have coffee and regular milk." He said, "You have to provide alternative milk options." It's an EU regulation from 2012 called the Dietary Accommodation Directive. All food service establishments must offer non-dairy alternatives, I explained. "We're a small cafe, not a chain." He said, "Size doesn't matter. The directive applies to any business serving beverages." "You're breaking EU law right now? The directive he cited doesn't exist." He posted that Amsterdam cafes refuse to comply with European dietary inclusion laws. I work at a pizzeria in Rome, and an American tourist asked for pineapple on his pizza. "We don't have pineapple." He said that's illegal. The Consumer Choice Protection Act mandates that all restaurants must accommodate topping requests if ingredients are commercially available within the region. Pineapple is sold in Italian grocery stores, therefore you're required to offer it. I told him we're a traditional pizzeria, and no such act exists. He said I read about this exact situation online. An American sued a restaurant in Florence in 2016 and won. It set a precedent. No such case exists. He left a review warning Americans that Roman restaurants violate consumer protection laws established through international litigation. I'm a sommelier in Bordeaux. An American couple wanted to return a bottle of wine because it tasted too French. He said American wines are aged with more oak influence, and this bottle was too subtle. I explained this is a classic French style. The husband said we paid for it, so we're entitled to a replacement. The Wine Consumer Rights Act of 2003 allows returns based on taste preference if stated within 10 minutes of opening. I told him no such act exists. He said yes, it does. It's enforced internationally by the World Wine Council. We looked it up before our trip. There's no World Wine Council. They demanded to see the manager and later posted that French restaurants don't honor internationally recognized wine return policies. I manage a small trattoria in Venice, and an American woman complained that our espresso was too small. She held up the tiny cup and said, "This is false advertising. The Federal Trade Commission mandates minimum beverage sizes based on price point. Anything over €2 must be at least 8 ounces. I explained espresso is meant to be small and concentrated. She said, "That's a loophole restaurants use to scam tourists." It was addressed in a 2010 FTC ruling about portion transparency. No such ruling exists. She tried to demand a refund and posted online that Venetian cafes use deceptive serving practices that violate international consumer protection standards. I'm a train conductor in Switzerland, and an American man was upset that announcements on the Zurich to Bern route were in German first, then French, then Italian, with English last. He said this violates international protocol. The Geneva Transportation Convention states that English must be the primary language on all cross-border routes because it's the official language of international travel. Switzerland signed this in 1987. I explained, Switzerland has 4 national languages. We accommodate all of them before English. He said, that's economically backward. The convention was created specifically to streamline European rail travel for global tourists. The convention he mentioned doesn't exist. He filed a complaint with Swiss Federal Railways, claiming we were ignoring binding international transportation agreements. I work at a bike rental shop in Amsterdam, and an American tourist was furious that we don't provide helmets. He said it's a safety violation. The EU Cycling Safety Directive from 2005 mandates helmets for all rental bikes. You're breaking the law. I explained helmets aren't required in the Netherlands and most Dutch people don't wear them. He said, that's because they don't know the law. The directive was passed after a study showed helmet use reduces injuries by 90%. It's legally binding. No such directive exists. He threatened to report us to the Dutch police and posted online that Amsterdam bike rentals operate illegally under EU safety standards. I'm a tour guide in Edinburgh, and an American woman interrupted my talk about Mary, Queen of Scots, to say I'd gotten the dates wrong. She said Mary was queen from 1540 to 1580. The actual dates are 1542 to 1567. I corrected her politely. She said, no, I double-checked this on a history website before the trip. You're confusing her with Mary Tudor. They're different people, but their reigns overlapped, which creates confusion. I explained I have a history degree, and this is my profession. She said degrees don't matter. Wikipedia is peer-reviewed now. I have the citations saved on my phone. She showed me a random blog post. She later posted that Edinburgh tour guides don't fact-check their own material, can get defensive when corrected by informed tourists. I manage a car rental office in Lisbon, and an American man was upset we drive on the right side of the road. He'd assumed Portugal drives on the left like the UK, he said. This should have been disclosed in the rental agreement. The International Driving Standards Treaty requires agencies to notify drivers if a country uses non-standard road rules. I told him driving on the right is standard for most of the world, including Portugal. He said, that's irrelevant. The treaty mandates disclosure of any variation from the renter's home country. You're violating Article 12 of the 2002 Transportation Safety Accord. Neither the treaty nor accord exists. He tried to cancel his rental and demand a refund based on improper disclosure of driving conditions. I'm a taxi driver in Oslo, and an American passenger asked me to take the fastest route to his hotel. I took the most efficient roads, but he claimed I'd gone the wrong way. He pulled up Google Maps and said, you added 4 minutes. In America, if a taxi driver deviates from the GPS route, they can't charge for the extra time. It's regulated under the Metropolitan Transit Fairness Act. I explained, I'm a local. I know these roads, and GPS doesn't account for current traffic patterns. He said, that's what all scam drivers say. The act was specifically created to prevent this excuse. No such act exists. He refused to pay the fare and reported me to the Oslo Taxi Authority for fraudulent routing practices. I work at a ferry terminal in Santorini, and an American couple missed the last boat to Athens because they arrived 15 minutes after departure. They demanded we send another boat. The husband said, we paid for tickets, so you're contractually obligated to provide transportation. The Maritime Service Guarantee Act requires carriers to accommodate ticketed passengers within a reasonable time frame. 15 minutes qualifies, explained ferries run on fixed schedules. He said, that's an outdated model. The act was passed in 2009 specifically to modernize ferry service standards across Europe. No such act exists. They tried to sue the ferry company for breach of international maritime contract and posted that Greek ferries ignore passenger rights established under EU law. I'm a metro attendant in Berlin, and an American tourist tried to bring his large suitcase on a crowded U-Bahn during rush hour. Another passenger asked him to wait for the next train. He said, I have a right to public transportation. The European Transit Access Agreement guarantees all passengers equal access, regardless of luggage size. It's a non-discrimination clause from 2010. I explained that while he can travel with luggage. Courtesy suggests waiting for a less crowded train. He said courtesy isn't enforceable. The agreement is, you can't deny someone transport based on arbitrary crowding standards. The agreement he cited doesn't exist. He posted online that Berlin Metro staff don't enforce European transit equality laws and allow discrimination against travelers. I work at a bus station in Reykjavik, and an American woman wanted to know why our signs aren't in English.